Now I'm ready to finish this dent out. Now what I'm doing is I'm setting up, getting the perfect picture. And if you look right here, you'll see these are the pits that are still left. The bottom one's a smaller one. And I just have to pinpoint them out with a sharper tool or use the same tip I've been using. It doesn't matter what you guys use, just don't chew it up. If you're going to use a sharp metal tip tool, make sure that you know exactly what you're doing. Don't get too aggressive, because when you get to this point, it either gets better or it gets worse. So be careful, be aware, take your time, learn. This is the most important part when you're finishing. So before I push it out, I actually just want to open it up a little bit more. I'm setting up the perfect position for my reflection. And I'm going to go with a plastic sharper tip, a semi-sharp. That's what I call it. And I'm knocking down the outside edges, just opening up and shallowing out the center. Setting it up. I don't have to go super hard. Just touching it up. And you'll notice, look, it's getting a little wider, but I've got to make it bigger to get it smaller, guys. You guys know that. That's what I say a lot. And I don't want any kind of, like, shall I say, splinters or little high spots inside the center. I want it to be nice and shallowed out, kind of like a pool. Okay, nice and smooth as I can get it. Now I do go back and forth between my flat bars. It's whatever's convenient for me, whatever's really set up, or if it's curled or bent, or if I have an extension on it, that's the tip I'll use or tool I'll use. So I don't think I'm just switching back and forth for just because I want to. It's because I usually have 2 or 3 flat bars ready to go for positions that I'd like to set up. Now I'm using that soft tip again. I'm trying to finish that out and closing it up. I want to squeeze right in the center where I see that low. And if I can squeeze it out and make it a little pinched, then that's what I'm trying to do. And I'll tap it back down. We're pretty close to getting this dent out, guys. I'm not going to go for every little detail from this point on. You really understand what I'm trying to do. If this is something that you haven't seen before and you really want to see a dent going from start to finish completely, I suggest you go back into the intermediate or the basic PDR training under line boards or John Hiley's fog board talking about finishing. So it really this is about keeping that dent clean, how to break that crease down, unleash the trapped pressure, release it, shall I say, not unleash it. Sorry, it sounds like 300 or something. But take your time, be patient. I hope these videos help you a lot. That's the whole thing, is we want to make sure that you stay in good habit. This is a technique that I use. It's not something that's mandatory. Everything I show you guys is definitely an idea. Okay, it's just the way I do it, and I hope it really kind of takes its course for you. Now I do still have some stuff on the body line, but I do like to adjust my board and see what's more obvious or what bugs me the most. You don't have to do that. You can complete whatever you start. I just kind of bounce around and look for the lowest spots, and I go back to that crown up there on top, and I'll go ahead and start pushing that low right there, just to make sure everything's uniform, to keep it clean, because that's something I'm going to see when I put my head close to the panel, eye level. And then put your board back further too, because you really can see what's really flat, what's high. You just get a way better perspective when you put your face close to the panel, sideways, looking across the dent. It's going to give you a much better perspective on the dent, and you'll be able to see more detail. I only really do that when I'm finishing the dent, because that's where you can see the most detail. Sometimes it's too much detail when you start that way. So I start just picking at the dent little by little, just working it, and don't try to finish everything at one shot, because if you do, you can actually unbalance the dent. So you might have to overcorrect what you've done, or help correct what you did wrong, shall I say. So just keep it balanced. Don't go for glory when you're doing a dent and pressure releasing. You notice I'm going back and forth to each section and keeping it clean, though. That's just the way I do it. You might want to do it a different way, but this is my technique and it works for me. And for my final finishing, I'm going to be using a door tool. It's kind of like a shape of a hook with some tape on it. And this is how I'm going to finish out my dent. I'm just going to pick out the mini micro lows in there. And I keep moving my board back and forth. Don't forget to move your board back and forth, guys. You have to really double check your work. And I'm just right now just going to wherever I see, whatever bothers me the most. If I see a little bit of lows here and there, I can do that. Now, the great thing about having a smaller tip, and I put tape on there, it's not just because I want to keep it from poking. I also want to keep my tool tip from slipping. That gaffer's tape works wonders for keeping grip against the panel while you're pushing. Now I'm going to move the board and look a little bit closer to the side so you can get a better perspective of what it would look like if you were looking from the side. If you're putting your face closer to the panel and looking down at an angle, now you can see just a little bit of a pinch right in this area right here. That's why I always recommend you look down the side. If you look down the side closer to the panel, and your face is going to get dirty once in a while, but at least you'll be able to see those crowns and that wave that you want to get rid of. I'm still trying to release that crown right there just above the body line, right on the outside where you see me tapping. And now I'm not going to get rid of it all at the same time. Again, as I mentioned, I'm going to go ahead and push out that low that's a little bit over to the right. And if I can do that, then that crown will actually get a little bit more smoother, come out a little bit better. If the crown doesn't want to move, that means you got to push. And if the low doesn't want to push, that means you got to tap down the crown. So keep remembering that, because that's a big key feature as well. You've got to be aware and be smart and pay attention why it's not releasing. Why does it want to go back easier? And the easier it goes back, the more you're learning and the better you're doing it right. The harder and the more forceful you are removing a dent, well, you're not actually releasing pressure correctly. Release pressure correctly, you'll have less of a hard time. Now go back to my cherry tip again, because I can really overstretch it without making a poke marks. Last thing I want to do is make poke marks and chew up my dent before it gets better. This is where I tell my students, when I actually train them in person, I say at this point it's either going to get better or it's going to get worse. It's up to you to decide what you want it to do. Do not get impatient towards the end. Now I just finish it up doing the same thing as I was doing before, the last two clips you've seen, and here's the end results. Nice and clean. I could have color sanded this if I wanted to, but I wanted to show you what was truly left. I also could have took a very sharp tool and did that as well, but I hope you accept this as a pretty decent repair. Look at the symmetrical and make sure it's pretty clean all the way through. So take care, guys.